welcome Miss Amber Chapman. So, before I go into the meat of the entire conversation, I read that you are a community servant. Tell me a little
Yes.
bit about that. What inspired you? What is that about?
So the world is very different now than what it looked like when I was growing up.
Uh,
And I find myself yearning to get that part of the community back. So I have kind of dedicated my life to being the person that I want to see in the community. I want to see more
awesome.
people involved. I want to see more people integrated. I want to see us working together more. I think since social media has kind of taken over the world, we don't communicate the way that we used to.
Yeah.
And the way that we used to show each other that we care and we love for each other, and we are concerned about each other, it looks a little different too. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think we have lost a significant piece, significant ability to connect with one another.
Yeah.
And so when I say community servant, I take it upon myself to not just model it, but encourage other people to do some of the things that I'm doing. And that just involves us being involved.
And what are some of the ways that, I mean, that's awesome because sometimes, as you said, we lose with social media. It's great, but then we would have lost that old school way of connecting, right? And really getting to know
Mm-hmm.
someone. Whereas now we're so visual and so, it's oh, who's Amber Chapman? We go to social media and we
Mm-hmm.
instantly scroll, and that's where we form an opinion instead of, reaching out, making that first point of contact. And I think it's so
Mm-hmm.
vital. Something we need to incorporate both. Yes, you can check
Absolutely.
the person out on social media, but also having that touch point where you're talking, communicating and getting to know who that person is. Because not everything that we see on social media we know is, that person that doesn't necessarily always show up as their most authentic self, right? So,
Right,
like what are some
exactly.
of the things that you're doing to like really foster that community and really get people to communicate and connect with each other differently?
So it's picking up the phone more
Oh,
than and calling more than texting
I'm
or more
guilty
than
of that.
DMing. It's and the thing is, it's so easy and it saves you so much time because you're able to pick up those conversations when you have time for them. But I am really trying to be more intentional about letting people hear my voice. I think that's huge because via DM, via text, you can't get someone's intention or you can't assume their passion. It's different. If I were to text the same conversation we're having right now,
Yep.
you would have a completely different feeling
Yep.
than what we're sharing in this moment. And that's what brings our humanity back to the basics. So it's being intentional about picking up the phone. I handwrite letters and cards, and I still send them in the mail. I think that's huge. It's nice to get something in the mail besides bills. I don't even, for a long period of time, I didn't even check the mail because I just knew it was bills there. But if I know that now I can
Yeah.
get a card that or something encouraging or just someone saying, I'm thinking of you, or, I know this week has been tough for you. Just wanted you to know that somebody's been praying for you or rooting for you. Um, those are the type of intentional actions I'm trying to take to help kind of create and develop that sense of community. And what I'm finding is that I have friends who are doing that, beginning to do that too.
Yeah. I know it's as you said, it's so interesting that when we go to the mailbox, we only expect bills. And I can tell you personally, my mom sent me a birthday card last year. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
people still do this? But it was so great. It felt so good just,
Mm-hmm.
receiving this card. So I definitely, it's something that I think is great that you're doing, just to get us out of
Mm-hmm.
that, constantly, because yes, it's faster, but that personal touch of, handwritten note or receiving a card makes it so
Mm-hmm.
feels so different, and it feels a lot more personal. So I
Mm-hmm.
like that idea, and that's something that I would try and adopt in my own way of life, because I'm also one of those instant persons, instant message,
Mm-hmm.
instant. I find that getting on the phone and having a phone call, to me, it must be, I don't want to say important. I want to say it must be connected to
Mm-hmm.
something. But usually, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
just checking on,
To the
hey,
soul.
Amber, how are you doing today? It's a text message,
Mm-hmm.
I will send, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I have to be, yeah, that's something I can say I'm guilty of. I'll send a text message. Or what I do know, I try as much as I can to send voice notes.
That's good too.
Yeah.
That is very good. I don't send voice notes, and maybe I'll add that to my thing too. But it's just about creating moments. We are lacking in moments, and those moments are the things that you remember. You remember how you felt when you got that card, and that's why that moment
Yeah.
was so special to you. You
Yeah.
don't really remember that moment you got a text message and you were like, "Oh, that text message gave me butterflies." It's just not the same thing,
Yeah, that
you
is
know.
that is that is so true. I absolutely agree with you. I hope that, person that's listening to this, that, they take it upon themselves to add that as a form of communication, whether or not it's business or personal, because I think that indeed does show a different level of, a personal touch to it. So that's like
Mm-hmm.
really great. So I wanted to ask you your opinion on, confidence when it comes to confidence, because sometimes making that phone call, not just to family members but to like a potential client or a potential employer, we tend to sometimes lack the confidence to do, initiate those conversations. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that I build my business on is just encouraging women to use their voice and to have that
Mm-hmm.
confidence to show up. No,
Mm-hmm.
everyone is not born with confidence. I can tell you from my own experience, it's
Right.
something that I daily I have to practice. It's a
Mm-hmm.
muscle that I constantly have to work on. There are times when I can show up and I'll be like, yes, here I am. And then there are times I show up and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna sit back and let the room talk. And so
Right.
I find it's like not everyone as I said, has that level of confidence to show up.
Mm-hmm.
How would you what advice would you give women who are, sitting in the foreground, waiting on that moment to really speak up and really, talk about and share their story? What advice would you give them when it comes to confidence, and how have you shown up in a confident way in your own life?
So I will say that I think all of us struggle with confidence.
Yeah.
And I think that just stems from all of our experiences. That's what makes us who we are. But to that point, I had to learn that no one knows me better than me. No one knows my story better than me. So there's no one that can correct me on my story because they haven't lived my life, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to be my largest advocate. So that's one thing. But two, when it comes to work and projects and whatever it is that you're working on, the world is waiting for your gift. God has given all of us these gifts and talents that He intends for us to use, and the world's waiting on it. Someone else needs to see it. Someone else needs to hear your story
Yeah.
because they can find the similarities in their story. They can find the inspiration and encouragement to move on, which I think is huge. A lot of people, even myself, I don't find myself to be an exciting person by any means. But last week, there was a young lady who wrote me a message who said she read my bio and she was inspired. And it was this long, very beautiful message. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm literally nobody. Like, I'm not impressed with myself at all. But, and it took me a lot, I remember, to write that bio. And even if it was for that one moment, I know that that's one person I was able to impact, not even intentionally,
Yep.
So I think that you find confidence in knowing that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You've gone through what you've gone through to become the person that you are. And you just have to focus on the positive attributes, the things that you do like about yourself, and leverage the things that you may not so much. Um, because oftentimes those weaknesses are our greatest strengths
Yeah.
too. And it takes time to like really learn and process and understand what that really means. But if you actively work on it, you have to actively spend time with yourself. And I'm a huge proponent of that. The last couple of months, I've spent time just reflecting on me and things that I didn't exactly like about myself. Some tragic and really challenging things that I have gone through in my life.
Yeah.
And just that spent time sitting in that and dealing with the emotions and the feelings of that. And it's amazing how much stronger I became because I spent time with me, spent time understanding me and kind of processing my feelings and emotions. And that has excelled my confidence too, because I made it through that. Every moment that I thought I wasn't going to make through something, I got stronger from those moments. And I can look back on it and I can see how I can help other people get through those moments too. So I think it's just really just settling into you. And that's, there's only one you. There's nobody else that you
Yeah.
might have a twin, but that person is not exactly like you,
Exactly.
you know? So I think that in itself is a gift to the world. So just lean into that.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Well said. I like that what you just said, leaning into you, because you're the only you know yourself, you're unique. You may not have and one of the things sometimes where we lack that confidence is because we're comparing ourselves to others, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
looking at someone else's journey, not understanding that they would have gone through certain challenges as well, right? Everyone
Right.
has their own story, everyone has their own struggles. It's for
Mm-hmm.
you to look at what you're going through, look at your strengths, look at ways that you can improve yourself. So I think that's like really beautifully said, and like so
Mm-hmm.
important for us to focus on, not
Mm-hmm.
compare ourselves to other persons. I think that's sometimes that's where most, because I know
That's
I've
huge.
done it already, right? I look at my journey
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, and then I'm looking at someone else's and I'm like, okay, so she's so far ahead. We're doing the same thing and she's so far ahead. Why am I
Mm-hmm.
still stuck in this place? And then you realize that no, wait a minute, that person's been doing that for 20 years and you just started,
Mm-hmm.
right? You would not
Mm-hmm.
have seen their struggles. You're now seeing the glory. You're now seeing the fruits of all the hard work.
Right. That starting line is different for every person.
Exactly, exactly. And one of my favorite quotes, I don't cannot tell you if I start somewhere, but it's just something that I've been using. No
Mm-hmm.
one starts at the finish line, right? And
That's so good and so true.
yeah, no one
Mm-hmm.
starts at the finish line. We have to remember that when it comes to building our confidence. You have to recognize, first of all, if you're not confident, you have to recognize, what are some of the triggers? What are some of the things that's holding you back? And then, of course,
Mm-hmm.
start practicing the habits to be able to develop that muscle, because that's what it is. Everything that we do is about
Mm-hmm.
good habits and muscles that we're building, right? And once we
Mm-hmm.
do that, I think we'll get into a space where we will feel the knots within your stomach. You will feel,
Mm-hmm.
get the sweaty palms and everything, but you will show up. And that's what we're empowering and we're asking women to do, is to show up, to feel powerful, to, own the spaces that they're in. Now, one
Right.
of the things that I've experienced with, when I'm like dealing with certain clients, and I've seen like from my research, is that women sometimes, when we take on these leadership roles and we get into these powerful places, there's also the stigma of, women getting into these spaces where they are, she becomes someone else that, she's not showing up as her most authentic self, because you're either
Mm-hmm.
adopting, certain traits within the environment. Let's say you're working in a
Mm-hmm.
male dominated industry. And I know in my capacity as an image coach, I will find like my clients will say, "Oh yeah, I'm working in tech. It's my coworkers are male, so I don't need to dress up. I would love to dress up, but I don't want to because I don't want to feel like being judged. Because you want to wear
Mm-hmm.
your pink, you want to wear your statement necklaces, but the guys that they're wearing jeans and t-shirts and some ugly ass boots." And you decided that, what, in order to fit in, you're downplaying who you are, right? And not showing
Right.
up as your
Mm-hmm.
most authentic and powerful self. So what
Mm-hmm.
advice would you give to those women who are working within these industries, or women who are aspiring for powerful roles, but sometimes feel as though their uniqueness as to who they are wouldn't be able to express that as much as possible in these roles?
I felt that in a lot of the positions that I've held. I've always felt like I've never been able to arise to the occasion. And that was solely because of me. And it was the parameters that I put around myself. But I found that when I adjusted me,
Yeah.
really, to being the person that I truly am. And yes, it can be a little extra sometimes. And people will joke and laugh about it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I know that I perform at the level that I'm supposed to perform when I am truly allowing myself to be me. And at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, people are going to say whatever they want to say, whether you're dressed right or whether you're dressed wrong. Someone's always going to have something to say. You're just going to have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
But what's more important is that you're showing up for yourself, and it's not what or how anyone else sees you. Because when you are performing at the level at which you are able to, and you're probably used to performing when not restricted that way,
Yeah.
you're gonna knock their socks off. You're gonna set the world on fire. So in my mind, why even wait? Why wait for someone to tell you when you can do that? Why not just take it and own it yourself? Because you're the one that's really holding yourself behind. Let them
Yeah.
look like bums if they want to look like bums.
Exactly. I mean, and that's how, when I look at it, it's don't let your environment shape you. You
Yes.
shape your environment. You show up the way that you want to based on your goals, because you cannot say, and you cannot say, okay, I want to, take on leadership roles. I want to
Mm-hmm.
have a 6 or 7 figure business, and you're not
Mm-hmm.
showing up as that person. No, there's,
Right.
whenever I say that, some persons tend to think, I mean, you need to show up draped in designer clothing, and you need to show up
Oh no.
draped in expensive clothing. It's like, no, dress appropriately, right? Dress
Yes.
appropriately. It's just
Yes.
like when we look at the movies, when they're scripting certain characters, they have to dress the part. You have to
Mm-hmm.
become that person. So if you want to be the CEO, you have to become that person, not only in your work, your voice, but
Absolutely.
also your appearance. So, that's great advice that you give. Just like show up as yourself and perform at the level that you want to perform at. At the end of the day, that is the most important thing.
I agree 100%. And I started had to start thinking of it this way. When I walk into a room, I want the energy to change. And I
I
want that
like
energy
that.
to be set because I set the energy.
I
And when
like
I
that.
leave the room, I want the room to maintain that energy. And so that once you start that way, I think you will finish that way, and it'll just be something that started.
Oh yes, I liked what you said, because I'm full of quotes today. It's it's your appearance should be the echo that you leave in the room. When you
Yes.
leave, there should be certain things, because sometimes if you think about it, if you enter a networking event, yes, we're doing everything virtual right now, but even
Mm-hmm.
virtual, being on screen and we're looking at all these little squares, you need
Mm-hmm.
something for, someone to say, oh yeah, I remember you were wearing that beautiful necklace with that black something, because generally that's we
Mm-hmm.
some persons associate certain things. You have those who will associate maybe a statement that you make with who you are. Some persons will
Right.
associate something that you would have been wearing with who you are. So you have to be
Mm-hmm.
able to connect with everyone in the room with what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, and as well as your appearance, because they're persons who will gravitate to you based on different things. And if you want to capture the attention of the room, it's important that you show up 100%, have that
Absolutely.
total
Every time.
package. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and that's more than anything else I try to encourage my clients to do. And, just looking at you, because we're having this conversation earlier where when you dress, you said that when you dress and you add that little bit of statement, like your necklace today, you feel as though, I can perform better. I can perform, I'm not, yes, I'm wearing black, but there's this little personality that I added to it, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. That's amazing. So yeah. But going on to when I think about, because we can have the confidence, we can have the positions in place, and we're showing up, but we also need to be able to make impacts. We need to be able
Mm-hmm.
to impact the world in some way. And when I say impact the world, you don't have to put your hand up to be the vice president of the United States of America. But you can put your hand up by mentoring a woman, or creating a business, or having a space where you can really uplift women and bring them along on your journey, and also help them to see and use their voice as well. So as a leader, like, what are some of the ways that some of the things that you're looking forward to doing to be able to make that impact within your field, and to be able to empower women along the way? And what advice would you give women who are thinking about ways in which they can make an impact themselves?
I am so with my notes. That's one thing I'm really trying to actively continue to do to encourage other women.
Okay.
Sharing resources, I think, are incredibly important. I think there are so many. I read a lot. I love reading, and I come across things all the time. Um, and I think some people do that too, but they don't take the moment. I'm just thinking of small things to share
Yeah.
or forward to someone. Oh, this may be of benefit to you, or you should check this out, read this. And you see people do it on LinkedIn. I think sometimes it's just out of habit, but I try to be intentional about thinking about what other people are doing and finding something that can benefit them.
Okay.
Because I would hope that somebody would do that for me too. I do believe that when one of us does well, all of us do well, and we
Oh,
can help everyone do well.
absolutely. Yep.
Um, I have a few mentees that I mentor too, and it's really just providing a space for people to feel safe and vent those things that you really shouldn't say to anyone about maybe clients or colleagues or
Yeah.
um, we as women we deal with a lot. You know, on we manage a lot, and I
Yeah.
think oftentimes we feel like that we have to hold and carry the weight for ourselves and everyone else around us, but we don't take the time to offload that. And so I offer a safe space to a lot of, like I said, of mentees and a lot of my girlfriends and other women that I know professionally, just to vent, just to get stuff off their plate. And our agreement though is that when you offload it, you leave it and then you
Yeah.
move on. You know, we can't continue to dwell in things and it's wasting time. It's not benefiting you anymore. So um, I would encourage women to, I think we are doing a better job at supporting each other that way. I do believe that being intentional about how we support each other and how we support each other's businesses are important too.
Yep.
I think oftentimes someone has a new store opening and we go and buy a piece and that's our contribution. But are you calling that person and checking in saying, hey, how are things going? Is there anything that I can do to help? And continuing to patronage their businesses or connect them with people. It's just being active and being
Yeah.
intentional about how we support each other. I think that's an area that and it's hard because, like I said, we take on a lot. And so it's almost like, how can you continue to add on to your plate when your plate's already full? And it really is just being organized and being intentional about it. I hate to say this, and some of my girlfriends who will see this will probably not be so impressed. But when I call and check in on certain friends, I put a reminder in my phone that I need to call them again
Yep.
because you get so lost
Oh,
in into everything, you know. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's so great that you thought to call me." I do love you, 100%. I do, but it's hard when your plate is full and you're trying to help other people balance their plates as well. Um, so it's really
yeah.
being intentional with how you support others.
Oh, I like that. And also I'm one of those persons. If you say to me, okay, can we meet tomorrow at 12? While we're on the phone, I'll be like, okay, hold on. I need to go to my calendar tomorrow at 12.
Right.
Oh, I need to call such and such tomorrow at 12. Okay, I need to add that in my
Mm-hmm.
calendar. It's not that, the person, I mean, setting a schedule to call a friend doesn't mean you love them less. It just means you're making a
Right.
lot more, you're committing yourself to not forget that you
Yes.
need to make that call, right? Because it's that important. So I think your girlfriends, when they see it, they'll understand it's not that it's not that you love them any less. It's that you love them that
Right.
much that you want to ensure that you don't forget
Thank
to
you.
make that call. So I like that. And I also
Yes.
like the fact that you've created a space where women can offload and vent because,
Mm-hmm.
as you said, we carry a lot, and sometimes we don't have that space where we can let it out and it stays
Mm-hmm.
there, and it's not, we're not walking with it into another room, we're not walking with it into another space, and you don't feel as though you're being judged in the moment. It's like, whatever is happening, let it
Mm-hmm.
out, because we do need that, that freedom
Mm-hmm.
to do that, because sometimes that can stop us from doing the things that we want to do, and that can also impact our confidence,
Absolutely.
and showing up, in these position and doing the things that we want to do. So I absolutely Love that. I encourage you to, just continue building on that, because I think that's a product or service or a place. I'm just trying to find the word
Mhm.
there. A place where, women, we need it. We need it. We
Mhm.
need to be able to offload. And sometimes we have family members and we have friends that we do it one, two, three times. It's like, okay, now it sounds like you're complaining, when it's like, no, I'm not complaining. I just have a lot on my mind. Can I just have a moment to
Right.
just offload? So having that
Mhm.
space where it's specifically for that, everyone knows in that room that, okay, this is the offloading room. We offload. We don't judge. We
Mhm.
don't say, oh, yes, you're dealing with something else again. It's like, no, this is my space to let it go, get some ideas
Exactly.
to how I can move forward, and then move forward. So I love that. So
Mhm.
I wish you all the best in that, and thank you very much for
Thank you.
sharing that as well. I appreciate you being here again, Amber. So thanks again.